Alright, I have Wild Kingdom behind me, so you will hear dogs biting each other and snorting and all sorts of lovely things in the background. Yay. They're so funny though. Alright, so let's talk about these next few questions and see how you feel. Hopefully you feel comfortable with them. I'm actually going to go, let me start with, let's do number 53. Okay, so number 53, now we're going to look at tan inverse of tan of 3 pi over 5. Alright, and so how I would approach this question is, I would convert this to angle measure. That might be one way you could do this. You can actually find that this part of the equation is equal to 108. And so to find the inverse of this, it's basically going to be the equivalent of 180 minus 108, which is 72 degrees. So that's one of the ways I'm going to show you how to do this section. 54, you have cosine inverse of cosine 7 pi over 6. And so once again, I would ask you to convert that to an angle measure. And so you would take 7 pi over 6 times 180 over pi. And the pi's will cancel. 6 goes into 180 30 times, so that leaves you 210. At which point you would think of 360 degrees minus 210 degrees. You're missing 150 degrees, which converted back to radian would be 5 pi over 6. Okay? Alright, number 55. Number 55 is actually the rest of these are super easy. So you have the cosine of sine inverse of 3/5. And so let's do some basics. Sine inverse of 3/5. So you're doing 3/5. You know that this is 3, this is 5 based on SOLF. And number 4 would be a 3, 4, 5 Pythagorean ratio. So now if I'm doing the cosine of that, for that theta, then that's sine theta. So you can kind of, oopsie. Okay, now you can think of this thing as a big theta and say, well then cosine of theta would be 4/5. This is your answer. Should be answer choice A. Okay, let's look at 56. Apply the same concept. You have the cosine of tan inverse of 1/5. Alright, so again, you draw your quasi triangle. There's a theta and it has an OA, opposite adjacent, which means this is the square root of 26. 25 and 1, 26. And so now I'm thinking this is a giant theta. And so I'm looking for the cosine of that. Well, the cosine of that would be 5 over square root of 26, which multiplies square root of 26. Square root of 26. You get 5 square root of 26 over 26. That's it. Alright? Follow my logic. You'll be just peachy. Don't complicate things, because that's the problem with a lot of math people. They love to complicate things. Cotan of sine inverse of square root of 2 over 2. Alright, well, with this we already know. Square root of 2 over 2, if I draw my triangle, so we know that this is a 45 degree. So this is 1 square root of 2. This is your theta sitting here. We know that SOLF would give us 1 over square root of 2, which if I multiply square root of 2 over square root of 2, this becomes square root of 2 over 2, which is what we have there. So again, think of this as this giant theta sitting here. And now I'm looking for the cotan of that. So remember, cotan is x over y. And remember, these are still xr's and y's, right? So respectively, in this case, your answer would be 1, no matter whether tan or otherwise, because it's 1 over 1. Done. Alright, number 58. And here you have sine of tan inverse of x over square root of 2. This one was fun to do because you have to figure out what the value is without knowing what the value is. Yay! So what do we know about opposite over adjacent? We know that at least these two are here. If I need to find sine, I have to find r. And r is going to be equivalent to the square root of square root of 2 squared plus x squared. So technically my r value is the square root of x squared plus 2. And if I'm doing the theta here, so again think of this as this theta here, the sine of that value is going to give you x over the square root of x squared plus 2, which you have to now multiply top and bottom by square root of x squared plus 2 over x squared, the root of x squared plus 2. And so that gives you x square root x squared plus 2 over x squared plus 2. Alright, and I believe that was answer choice 58. Where are you? D as in dog. So answer choice D. Okay? Let's look at 59. Remember, this is a video. You can stop and go as you need. You have the sine of sine inverse of x over square root of 2. Didn't I just do this question? Oh, I did 10. X over square root of 2 again. Alright, so you draw your triangle. And obviously if it's a sine, we have x over square root of 2. And we need the sine of the sine, so I technically don't really care about that side. So if sine inverse of x over square root of 2 results in y over r, this being my theta, this being my giant theta, it doesn't really matter because the sine is going to be the same thing, so it's still going to give you x over square root of 2, and you still have to rationalize it by multiplying square root of 2 over square root of 2. Final answer, x square root of 2 over 2. And the world is now a better place because you know how to do that. Alright, last question, number 60. Let's see how fried I am at this point, because y'all went home and played soccer and went to dinner and had fun, and I've been recording since this afternoon, so be nice to me on Monday, because I'll be at, no, I'm kidding. Okay, so the sine of secant inverse of the square root of x squared plus 4 all over x. Okay, so remember, secant is the inverse of cosine. So we're drawing our picture. Alright, and so if this is my giant theta, remember I always say this is the giant theta sitting here. If it were cosine, it would be square root along this part, right? And then the x would be up here, but it's not, it's secant, it's the opposite, so it's again, remember cosine by default is x over r, so secant is r over x. So that means that in this case, this is the square root x squared plus 4. This side over here has to be the x, and to be true, this would have to be 2. Do the math. If r is equal to x, the square root of x squared plus the y squared, doesn't this give you r equals the square root of x squared plus 4? Aha! Light bulb went off. Okay. So the sine function of this theta is 2 over square root x squared plus 4. And what I want to do is now I want to rationalize this by taking are multiplying x squared plus 4 over square root of x squared plus 4. Final answer 2, square root of x squared plus 4 over x squared plus 4. Y'all better get 100 on this midterm. It's not a threat. Not a threat. But you better get 100 on this midterm. Or else